Hey, so anybody that remembers this guy, he's done. He's been done. This is the unlocked version, so this is completely no nodes are locked or anything, so you can play with it or reverse engineer it or whatever. See how everything is made. I want to go over how they set up the muscle joints because they're kind of cool and like where I put them and how they work. And this is something I learned through a class at CGMA, but I was really interested in it and I wanted to play with it. I even made a new lip rig setup, and I'll show you that too. But so real quick, if I turn on the X-ray joints, you'll see that these are all the control joints. So these are driving or being driven by controls or locators or etc. None of these are skinned to the mesh. In fact, if I turn off the controls, you'll see that they go away, and I turn on the export skeleton, you'll see that this is like what drives the actual geometry. These are all skinned, and these are all parent constrained to respective joints for the from the rig joints itself. So but I'm not we're not interested in these. They're just simple joints. We're interested in these. And so what this is kind of cool is because like you can see here I have this free floating joint here and some extra attributes that were added. So the original distance is just an input that I manually do, and then the distance is tracked from two locators and the distance between them, between the start and end joint. And if they're equal, the scale is equal. And basically what that means is that, the scale in x is equal, and that's the aim axis. So if I push this up, you'll see that it has changed, and now I have a greater scale. If I push that down, you'll see that that has changed, and I have a smaller scale. And what that allows for is for very slight deformation changes and in different sections. So I can change the weighting of like the pectorals, like base skinning, and this pectoral muscle. So I can get newer, better deformation, like secondary form deformation, very easily, very quickly with this setup. And it works really well. And it's also game engine friendly, which is really useful. So you can have like layered deformations without like complex blend shapes or anything like that. It's all joint driven. And then with and you have that in like the neck as well, from like the shoulder to the neck for the trapezius here. Then you have a trapezius in the upper neck, or upper back, middle back, and lower back, I guess, for the trapezius muscle. And the reason why I had to have three separate is because one couldn't control all of them; it would deform too much. So you'll see, like, I have relatively little deformation up on top, a little more in the middle, and then less in the bottom of it. So what that allows for is for nice, quick muscle like movement. And these are very lightly weighted anyway. This is primarily just like clavicle deformation. But you can see, like, even for like the trapezius up here, or the trap muscles up here, it flexes and like pulls over and stretches over like you might expect like an actual muscle to do. So that's really fun, and it looks really good. And you even have muscles in the lats. It's really simple. So it's a really subtle, but if you look here, you'll see the slight deformation. And this is like something you're not going to get with just straight clavicle bending, because it stretches in two different ways, whether it's going back or forward. It's like you're not going to get that with just one joint. So it's something you have to have multiple set up to do. And this is a very simple setup, to do. I even have an IK scapula here, so this is just a single chain IK with a point constraint to the spine or the chest joint, with the offset on. So basically, all that does is like give me some sort of pseudo quick clavicle, and this was shown to me by a friend. And so you can also prevent volume loss with simple remap value nodes. So basically, with the simple remap value and going in one direction, you can make these helper joints go in and out, which prevent volume loss. They can actually like actively dissuade it, which is like super helpful. And then you can also do secondary muscle movements, like so where I'm not going to have a muscle joint set up going from here to here because it's might not articulate that well. I found that doing the same push joints for like your biceps and like your upper arm based on the rotation of one direction is actually super helpful too, and you can even have secondary control over that if you needed it. And then you can even do the same thing with like the fats in the elbow. So if you push this up, you can see that like you get a very subtle secondary motion in like areas that typically just rotate, because in real life this pinches and folds, and you can kind of emulate that pretty quickly on a simple level with these simple push joints. And you have your obvious rotation joints and things like that. So you can see like even that pectoral, when this moves, it moves differently than like the rest of the body or the rest of that muscle, because it's like directly connected and influenced by the shoulder. So like these are all little things that, you know, probably won't go noticed immediately, if at all, but, you know, really sets it apart from, okay, it just rotates it and rotates at a gradient going down. You know, and those simple things. You know, even like the arm, like having, you know, some muscles that move a little differently and like flex a little weird, I think is like really important for something to show off. You know, and these aren't directly influenced by anything. They don't change. This is something you can hand animate. But it's still really important to do, I think. And then if we go into the lips, so I had to replace the lip rig with Bezier curves. I had to replace that with NURBS. And so if I turn the X-ray off, we can see just how it works, you know. So basically, I have a bunch of like marker joints skinned to a ribbon, and the ribbon follicles drive these joints. So basically, you know, this goes up, and I can scale it out and like change the influence because it's changing those marker joints. And I can even change it in like one direction too if I can turn off joint selection and just grab this. You know, so you can change the influence of different things. So if I want this to push this out, you know, I can do that, and it'll always work. And what it means is that you can get some really nice deformation very quickly with the lips. And because it's a ribbon, you know, it stretches nice and evenly. It looks a little more organic than most things. And you can even do some cool iRig setups with just aim constraints and a remap value, or a clamp rather. But yeah, no, it's what I wanted to show you is basically just these muscles. I think they're really cool, and show you how it operates. Yeah.